Umar ibn al-Khattab is going to not be able to hold back. And he's going to scream out. And he's going to say, "Lasna ala al-haq wa hum ala al-batil." Are we not following the right religion? Aren't they following the wrong religion?
Visit bayinatv.com/gift today to sponsor one of the 55,000 plus students that are waiting for a gift subscription. You can pay one time, cover a yearly subscription, or set up 10 payments for the first 10 days of the Hajj, the best 10 days of the year.
So now we come to the final negotiator. The Quraysh sent one of their own, finally, to negotiate. They sent Suhail ibn Amr al-Dawsi. Suhail is very important. Suhail is a very wealthy man, very, very well spoken. He's an extremely articulate enemy of Islam. If he was alive today, he'd be on some kind of talk show, he'd have his own podcast or something. He's a very, very well-spoken guy. He knows how to shut people up too. Politician. He has two sons. I need you to remember this. So Suhail has two sons, Abdullah and Abu Jandal. I'm going to quiz you on this. Suhail has two sons. What are they? Abdullah and Abu Jandal. Okay, so watch this. Suhail joins the army to fight against the Muslims in Badr, even though he's a wealthy guy. And along with him is his son, Abdullah. Abdullah is a soldier in the army with his side, fighting the Muslims in the Battle of Badr. As soon as they see the enemy, Abdullah runs away and joins the Muslims. He was secretly Muslim. Suhail was one of the leaders of the military. And your general, one of your generals, his son runs and joins the other side. How embarrassing is that for you? How humiliating is that for you? Right before the battle begins. Not just for the morale of the army. You look like you can't even control your kids. How are you going to control an army? You can't keep your house in order. You're going to keep an entire army in order? You see, politicians, they have to keep the thing and military and people in leadership, the thing they have to preserve more than anything else is their reputation. And this was a huge blow on his reputation. Abdullah is on the other side. Not only is Abdullah on the other side, Suhail ibn Amr al-Dawsi gets captured in Badr. So he's a prisoner of war. And guess who is his security guard in his prisoner of war? Abdullah. And Abdullah is making sure his ropes are extra tight. You know. فَشُدُّ الْوَثَاقِ. Tighten the ropes. Subhanallah. But before they sent Suhail, and so Suhail is burnt, by the way. They released him eventually. But before they released him, I'll share let me see if I can find the narration I had with me. Yeah, I can find it. Umar ibn al-Khattab knew what a good speaker he is. So when he was a prisoner of war, he said, "Da'ni anzi'u thaniyatay Suhail bin Amr wa yadla'u lisanahu." Ya Rasulullah, if you give me permission, I will pull out the two front teeth of Suhail and I will rip out his tongue. Why? فَلَا يَقُومُ عَلَيْكَ خَطِيبًا فِي مَوْطِنٍ أَبَدًا. So he will not be a speaker anywhere against you ever again. He will get no more speaking engagements because this is Umar's solution. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam says, "La umathilu bihi." I will not mutilate him. At-tamthil in Arabic, in Old Arabic, is mutilation. In fact, it literally means to make an example out of someone, right? Because when you see someone mutilated, somebody made an example out of them. They didn't just kill them, they mutilated them, right? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in another hadith said, "La tumathilu nammat Allah." Do not mutilate the delicate creatures of Allah, meaning animals. We're not even allowed to mutilate animals, what to mention human beings. So he said, I will not make an example out of him, I will not mutilate him. فَيُمَثِّلُ اللَّهُ بِي. And if I do, Allah will mutilate me. Rasulullah ﷺ said, and he said, وَإِن كُنْتُ نَبِيًّا. And even if I'm a prophet, Allah will do that with me. We don't do that. We don't torture and, pull out teeth and pull out nails and, cut out eyes and that kind of torture. Pour acid and these kind of sick tortures that these people do. And then they call it Geneva Conventions, Jahannam Conventions, right? What conventions? Where are these conventions? What human rights are these? And he was a prominent enemy of Islam, and Umar bin al-Khattab wanted to destroy him in this way, and he said, no, we won't. We're not going to do that. We don't do that. Now, Suhail ibn Amr, one more thing you should know. There was another person who came before Suhail. His name is Mikraz. And Mikraz is basically, some people are not well-spoken. They don't know how to express themselves well, so they curse a lot. You might know people like that. They can't even say, I want to go eat ice cream. They'll say, I want to poop, ice cream, poop. Like the cuss word is a verb, it's a noun, it's an adjective, it's a preposition, it's the subject, it's the mubtada, it's the khabar, it's the jar, it's the majroor, it's the mudaf, it's the mudaf ilayh. Right? It's all of it. Right? These people they don't know how to express themselves with words, so they communicate with filthy language. Mikraz is one of those people. Mikraz came to negotiate first, and the Prophet knew this is not going to work. So here's the narration. فأشرف عليهم قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم هذا مكرز وهو رجل فاجر. Mikraz was approaching. The Prophet said, this is Mikraz, and this is a vile person. This is an outrageous person, an outlandish person. فجعل يكلم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He starts talking to the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, and people like that, the conversation is not going to go anywhere. That's not a reasonable person to talk to. فبينما هو يكلمه إذ جاء سهيل بن عمرو. As he was talking, he sees Suhail coming too. Now you know a few things about Suhail now. Suhail's two sons were Abdullah and what happened with Abdullah? Became Muslim. Then he was his captor also in war. And then we don't know about Abu Jandal, right? Turns out when he went back from Badr, he found out Abu Jandal also became Muslim. So in Urdu they say Sone pe Suhaga, right? So this is Nurun ala Nur. One son humiliated him on the battlefield. The other son's a humiliation at home. So what did he do with Abu Jandal? He chained up Abu Jandal, threw him in a cellar, and beat him every day for between 2 to 4 years. He was kept as a prisoner and beat to leave Islam. His own son. He was keeping him personally because it was, you see, for people like that, you forget that you have a child because your first child is your pride. And him accepting Islam was a ding on his pride. And so for that child, your pride, you're ready to sacrifice all of your kids. You understand? So he wants to break his son, have him leave Islam by way of torture, and years have gone by and Abu Jandal is being tortured. And Muslims don't even know this because he became Muslim secretly. So when this negotiation was happening, we didn't even know this. So now Suhail comes. And the Suhail comes and Rasul says, this is narration, لَقَدْ سَهُلَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَمْرِكُمْ. Suhail, it's a play on words from Suhail. Suhail means ease, easy, like sahal, right? So he said, oh, Suhail is coming, things are going to become easier for you. Suhail is going to be easier to negotiate with. Okay. So, now the negotiations begin. فجاء سهيل بن عمرو وقال هاتي اكتب بيننا وبينكم كتاب. Okay. Bring a paper. Let's document a negotiation between us. I mean, but he ain't coming to make no formalities or nothing. I'm here. Let's not waste any time. Get a paper. Let's jot some things down. That's how he's beginning. Okay? فَدَعَ النَّبِي صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم الكاتب. The Prophet ﷺ asked for a writer. فَقَالَ النَّبِي صَلى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ. The Prophet gave dictation. Write بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ. قال سهيل. Suhail says, أما الرحمن فوالله ما أدري ما هو. He said, this Ar-Rahman, I swear to God, I don't know what that is. That's what he says. First thing he said, I don't know what this Ar-Rahman is. ولكن اكتب باسمك اللهم. Write in the name of you, O Allah. باسمك اللهم. Change this. I don't want to hear this. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Make it Bismika Allahumma. Okay? So when he said this, فقال المسلمون والله لا نكتبها إلا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The Muslims, 1,400 of them, sitting there, almost ready to die because of the alleged murder of Uthman. Remember? By the way, they were ready to go. I didn't tell you what happened. They were ready to go. As they're about to go, Uthman comes back. And they're like, we're going to get the revenge for Uthman. But they had all that anger, and they didn't know what to do with that anger, so they got angry at Uthman. And they said, you got to do tawaf. He said, I didn't do the tawaf. What are you talking about? And so there was an upset. There's already a ready to die atmosphere in the room or in the area, right? And now this guy comes and says, don't write Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Write Bismika Allahum. The Muslims say, Wallahi, we will never write it except Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم اكتب باسمك اللهم. The Prophet ﷺ said, write in the name of you, O Allah, Bismika Allahum. Oh, the Muslims are like, did he just listen to the kafir? He listened to Suhail. Suhail was our POW. We got both his kids. And we're going to listen to him. We're writing Bismika Allahum. Now there's a shockwave. Let me remind you of something. Remember the well that sprung out? And when it sprung out, the Prophet ﷺ said something. He said, Wallahi, whatever they ask me, I will give them, except if it's haram. Was Bismika Allahum haram? No, so he gave them. We gave them. Now the Sahaba are fired up. They don't remember that, but we can tell now the Prophet already referred to this. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Okay. ثم قال هذا ما قضى عليه محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Kitabah doesn't say sallallahu. He says, this is what Muhammad, the messenger of Allah, has come to agree to. This is the opening statement. This is what Muhammad, the messenger of Allah, has come to agree to. فقال سهيل والله لو كنا نعلم أنك رسول الله ما صددناك عن البيت ولا قاتلناك ولكن اكتب محمد بن عبد الله. He said, I swear to God, if we knew, if we believed that you are God's messenger, why would we stop you from Allah's house? Why would we fight you? Write Muhammad, son of Abdullah. Got it? So he's making them cross out Rasulullah and write Muhammad, the son of Abdullah. فقال النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام والله إني رسول الله. He said, I swear by Allah, I am Allah's messenger. وَإِن كَذَّبْتُمُونِي. Even if you call me a liar. اكتب محمد ibn Abdullah. Write Muhammad, the son of Abdullah. So now, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim got replaced with Bismika Allahum. So we went with the Rasul's suggestion or Suhail's suggestion. So Suhail won 1 point in the negotiations. Then Muhammadur Rasulullah or Muhammad ibn Abdullah. Another point in Suhail's favor. Because if negotiations are you get some, you give some, the score is 2-0. You with me, right? Now, there is a فقال له النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said to him, على أن تخلوا بيننا وبين البيت فنطوف به. You will let us be so we can go do tawaf. The next item to be negotiated. فقال سهيل والله لا تتحدث العرب أن أخذنا ضغطا. Wallahi, the Arabs will never get to say that we got pressured into letting you go. ولكن ذلك من العام المقبل. That can happen next year, not now. I know you came with your animals and you went through Hudaybiyah and you almost got killed on the way and we attacked you, but no, go home, come back next year. If the Prophet agrees to this, how many points in Suhail's favor? That's 3 points in his favor. فكتب فقال سهيل. So فكتب. So the Prophet said, write that down. Agreed. 3-0. فقال سهيل وعلى أنه لا يأتيك منا الرجل. Now the Prophet made a demand. عليه الصلاة والسلام. That got changed into something else next year. Yeah? Even if you're one of the Sahaba sitting there with your animal, your life savings, and you got there, 3 wars with the Quraysh, you got there, and the Prophet saw a dream that we're going to make Hajj, that's why you got there, and now the Prophet just casually agreed, it looks like, to not coming this year, but coming next year, you're probably still like a little dizzy. Like next year also, right? Like we're not doing, I must have unheard something. I'll ask afterwards in the question answer session. Probably misheard. That can't be real. But the Prophets agreed, alayhi salatu wasalam. So it's pretty shocking. Okay. Now, Suhail is going to make a demand. So Suhail says, he says, فقال سهيل وعلى أنه لا يأتيك منا رجل وإن كان على دينك إلا رددته إلينا. He said, no one of us will come to you, meaning nobody will escape Makkah, no man will escape Makkah and come to you in Medina, even if they follow your religion, except the only thing you will do is return him back to us. The policy will be, if one of us runs away from Mecca, accepts Islam, comes to Medina, he will be returned back to Mecca. Okay? Even if he's on your list. قال المسلمون Subhanallah. The Muslims said, Subhanallah. Like, Subhanallah is not the Desi version of Subhanallah. The Desi version of Subhanallah is Subhanallah. Right, this is Subhanallah. The Arab version of Subhanallah, the classical Arab version of Subhanallah, is when you hear something outrageous, you say Subhanallah. This is the religious version of saying, what? So in classical times, because you're a believer, instead of saying, what? You say, Subhanallah. This is what you say, okay? If you're from Pakistan, you say, La hawla wa la quwwat. You butcher everything, okay? But Subhanallah is an expression of, this is outrageous, this is insane. And why are the Muslims so upset about this? Well, if this policy was there before, there would be no muhajirun. There would be no sabiqun as-sabiqun. There would be no city established in Medina. There would be no Islam as it is now. Islam survived because people escaped Mecca. Islam thrived because people escaped Mecca. That would have meant Mus'ab ibn Umair could never have left Mecca and taught the Muslims in Medina the Quran and prepared them for the coming of the Prophet ﷺ. None of that would have happened if the policy was, as soon as somebody escapes Mecca, you go back. And many of them have escaped Mecca. How can they agree to a policy that they live through themselves? They live through it, the Muhajirun. So they say, Subhanallah, كيف يرد إلى المشركين وقد جاء مسلما. How will he be returned to the mushrikeen? And he came as a Muslim. How can we return our brother to the mushrikeen? How will that happen? فبينما هم كذلك. And as they were discussing this, إذ دخل أبو جندل ابن سهيل ابن عمر يرصف في قيوده. And while they were discussing this, Abu Jandal figured out that the Muslims are nearby. Somehow he escaped his dungeon, his cell, still the chains on him, cuts and bleeds everywhere, scars all over his body, ripped up clothes. He showed up in the negotiations. And فقد خرج من أسفل مكة حتى رمى بنفسه بين أظهر المسلمين. So he came from the bottom end of Mecca, somehow escaping, hiding, showed up, and he threw his body in front of the Muslims. I made it. The Muslims. And he just collapsed in front of the Muslims. By the way, who is Abu Jandal? Suhail's son. And who's negotiating on behalf of the Meccans? Suhail. And what was his request, right? What was his first demand? Anybody who escapes will be returned back to us. And while he's discussing this, and the Muslims are saying, that is impossible, we will never agree to that, Abu Jandal just escaped, plopped himself in front of the Muslims, cuts, bleeds and all, chains around him. And the Muslims see him. And Suhail says, Hada ya Muhammad, this one, Muhammad, أول ما أقاضيك عليه أن ترده إليّ. This is the first one I demand that you return to me. Let the negotiations begin now. My first demand is Abu Jandal, my own son. I want to continue the beating, basically. Rasulullah says, إِنَّا لَا نَقْتِلْ كِتَابَ لَمْ نَقْتِلْ كِتَابَ بَعْدِ. The Prophet said, we haven't signed that one yet. We haven't agreed to that yet. I mean, he brought it up, but it hasn't been discussed yet. He says, فَوَاللَّهِ إِذَنْ لَنْ أُصَالِحَكَ عَلَى شَيْءٍ أَبَدًا. He said, and if you don't agree to this, there's no negotiation left, ever. Don't even come back and try to negotiate anything. We will negotiate nothing with you if you don't give me Abu Jandal. This is not about Mecca anymore. Suhail came as a politician for Mecca. This clause is no longer about Mecca. What is this about? It is about his pride, his son, his ego. He already lost one son to Medina, didn't he? He's not about to lose this one. No. You're not going to get this one. No matter what happens, Abu Jandal stays. So Rasulullah says, Ajizhuli, give him to me as a gift. Let's start with some goodwill. Just make this a gift. He says, Ma ana bimujizihi lak. I'm not giving to you as a gift. The Prophet says, just do it. Faf'al, if'al, multiple times. You never find in the hadith literature of the Prophet ﷺ that he's asking for something multiple times from anybody. But you find in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ keeps asking, If'al, just do it. It's okay, just do it. It's not that big of a deal, just do it. If'al, faf'al, faf'al. And he says, Ma ana bifa'al. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. There's no way I'm doing it. Ma ana bifa'al. He gets more adamant. Mikras says, Mikras the thug, remember the one who curses a lot? He steps in, he says, Bala jaznahu lak. Listen, we'll go easy on him from now on, okay? How about that? How about we don't beat him up anymore? You good with that? Is that good enough for you? So it probably means that Mikras was doing a lot of the beating too. So I'll just go easy on it. I'll give you that much. The Prophet ﷺ looks like he's no longer arguing back, which is starting to look like they're about to what? Put this in writing, and Abu Jandal is about to be sent back. Subhanallah, كيف يرد إلى المشركين وجاء مسلما. How can he be returned to the mushrikeen? He came as a Muslim. They were talking about this, they were already upset about this in theory. But this is no longer theory. This is Abu Jandal right in front of them. Right in front of them. And then Saha Abu Jandal. Abu Jandal himself started crying, screaming. بِأَعْلَى صَوْتِهِ, as loud as he could. يَا مَعْشَرَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, gathering of Muslims. أُرَدُّ إِلَى الْمُشْرِكِينَ أَنْ يَفْتَنُونِي فِي دِينِي. You're going to send me back to the mushrikeen? I will be taken back to them so they can keep testing me to leave my religion? He didn't complain about the torture. He didn't complain about the humiliation. He was only worried about one thing. What's that? They might beat me enough that I might get weak on my deen. You want me to be in fitna in terms of my deen? فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا أبا جندل اصبر فاحتسب. Rasul ﷺ says to him, be patient. Hold yourself to account. Gather yourself. Compose yourself. فإن الله جاعل لك ولمن معك من المستضعفين فرجا ومخرجا. He said, Allah will place for you and all of those that are weak among you a relief and a way out. أنا قد عقدنا بيننا وبين القوم صلحا. I have now agreed to this agreement. The Prophet told him, you need to accept this reality. I've agreed with it. وأعطيناهم على ذلك أعطونا عهد الله وإنا لا نغدر بهم. We have now made this agreement with Allah as a witness. We will not go back on it. فقال فوثب عمر بن الخطاب مع أبي جندل يمشي إلى جنبه. Umar bin al-Khattab sees this. He has a sword. And he puts his sword on the side of his horse. Okay? And he slowly walks the horse towards Abu Jandal. And he comes to Abu Jandal. And he starts whispering to him. يقول اصبر يا أبا جندل. Just be patient, Abu Jandal. فإنما هم المشركون. They're just mushrik. Mikraz and who? So they're just mushrik. وَإِنَّمَا دَمُ أَحَدِهِمْ دَمُ كَلْبٍ. Their blood is a dog's blood. He's whispering to Abu Jandal. وَبُدْنِي قَائِمُ السَّيْفِ مِنْهُ. And my horse, there's a sword hanging there. The Muslims cannot fight because they're negotiating. The Prophet told them they came in the state of ihram. They will not take any instruction outside of what they came for. Who can take action? Abu Jandal can take action. Umar bin al-Khattab says, my sword kind of just left dangling there. And Umar bin al-Khattab says, رَجَوْتُ أَنْ يَأْخُذَ السَّيْفِ وَيَضْرِبَ بِهِ أَبَاهُ. I was hoping he would just grab the sword and strike down his father. قال فظن الرجل بأبيه ونفذت القضية. But he was too considerate of his father. And so it was what it was. Meaning he was sent back. He couldn't do it. I can't do this to my dad. SubhanAllah. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Oof. Oof. So he holds back. He's not going to... Now, we've reached almost the juiciest part of this. But it's time for Salah. And we got to end for tonight because I'm going to start again tomorrow. So I'll leave you with one thing. The Prophet ﷺ has now agreed to the fourth thing. Abu Jandal and all the Muslims will be returned. What's the score in the negotiations? 4-0. When we fought them in Badr, we didn't compromise. When we took their humiliation in Makkah, we didn't compromise. When we fought them in Uhud, we didn't compromise. When we fought them in Ahzab, we didn't compromise. We came all the way to Hudaybiyah, risking our lives. And for the first time, not one compromise. The Sahaba have never seen this much compromise from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not for the matter of deen, for a matter of deen, replacing an ayah of the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, with Bismika Allahum. They've never seen this before. They've never seen him replace the words Rasulullah with Muhammad ibn Abdullah before. Never seen that before. Never seen that he told them to come to make Hajj or make Umrah. And now he says, we'll come back next year, and he agreed to it. And then on top of all of that, Abu Jandal, and with him any other Muslim man who will ever come running. No, they'll all be sent back. What do you imagine is the feeling of the Muslims right now? 1,400 of them. What is their feeling? Their blood is boiling. They're confused. Why is the Prophet doing this? How could he do this to us? We've laid down our lives for him. We did everything. How is he compromising with the enemy like this? These people are, look at all the ayat of the Quran in which Allah takes a tough stance against the kuffar. The tough stance, where's the tough stance against the kuffar now? Jahid al-kuffar wal-munafiqeen waghlud alayhim. Fight against them. You know, Allah has promised victory over them. How are you getting soft on the kuffar now? This is the feeling that is brewing inside not just 1 or 2 or 10 or 15, 1,400 Sahaba, many of them very young, but many of them very senior Sahaba, like Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, like Umar bin al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and Umar bin al-Khattab is going to not be able to hold back. And he's going to scream out. And he's going to say, Lasna ala al-haq wa hum ala al-batil. Are we not following the right religion? Aren't they following the wrong religion? I'll tell you what happened later. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum everyone. There are almost 50,000 students around the world that are interested, on top of the students we have, in studying the Quran and its meanings and being able to learn that and share that with family and friends. And they need sponsorships, which is not very expensive. So if you can help sponsor students on Bayyinah TV, please do so and visit our sponsorship page. I appreciate it so much and pray that Allah gives our mission success and we're able to share the meanings of the Quran and the beauty of it the world over.